Drop kick me, Jesus, through the goalposts of life. End over in neither left
Sit in your
nor
chair and take your
right.
medicine like a man.
Straight through the heart of them.
What you gonna talk about today? The death of the emergency.
Drop kick
I
me, Jesus.
don't even know what I'm going to talk about.
We can go lunch. Hey, welcome back to The Question, a Blog Talk Radio conversation on Tuesdays with Doug Pagitt and joined by theologian Tony Jones. Tony, glad to have you aboard. So, yeah, camera's here. Camera's here. You're going to talk into that mic or just talk. It'll just pick you up.
Because it's a snowball.
Because it's a snowball. This is our little microphone that we use when I don't have the full multi-microphone setup going here in the room. And people are already wondering, Tony, what we're going to be talking about here on The Question.
What do they want? What do
edition.
the people want to talk about?
Abortion, and some people wanted to talk about just silly stuff.
We talked about abortion last week. Nothing has changed in the abortion debate in the last week.
This guy's unbelievable. Yeah.
How about we talk about Obama talking to the Muslim world?
Yeah, that'd be great. I listened to it and thought it was just great.
He's been taking
His indefinite articles were all set. He uses the wrong A and an. Well, he uses A when he should be using an. Yeah. And in the first part of the show, I played that little clip that I mentioned to you yesterday with a linguist says something about, like, if you take pride in the fact that you know the rules of the apostrophe from 7th grade, you need to get out a little more. And he's the editor of the Webster's Grammar Dictionary. And he's like, that's really not something to take pride in.
I disagree with him.
And people who do that, which are all three of my guest hosts in the show, he says... they kind of need to grow up a little bit. It's a great little 3-minute shtick with Terry Gross, who I invited to be a guest host on the show.
You've invited her?
Yeah.
By Twitter or what?
No, during the first. She listens to the show.
Oh.
So I just put out a call during the first part of the show and said, hey, after I played, I said, Terry, I'd love to have you in and be.
Please don't have Neil Conan because he stuttered. I can't even listen to that talk of the nation with all that stuttering. Golly, that guy. I don't know how he got a gig on NPR.
I don't know. I don't know, but he...
Well, Jon Stewart had an interesting little... I mean, he had a great clip last night of how Obama's speech to the Muslim world in Cairo was twisted by Fox News Channel. I mean, it was...
Really?
Sean Hannity played a clip where Obama says... Look, there are some people, I know there are some people out there who still think that, 9/11 was justified. Hannity cuts the clip right there and says, he's appeasing the, Muslim extremists.
No.
Swear to goodness, absolutely that's what Hannity did on the show. And of course, the rest of the quote goes on to Obama
but that's
saying,
ridiculous.
But I'm here to say unequivocally that was an act of evil.
Yeah.
That was terrorism, and that we stand against that. And we know that a lot of Muslims stand against that, and that Islam is a religion of peace.
And And I mean, what I'd be interested in talking about in related to that was the news story I heard yesterday from a week ago. The story about a week ago when a Muslim convert from Tennessee shot that recruit outside the recruiting station.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
And he had gone to Yemen and somewhere else and had sort of been radicalized. And,
in prison, he converted to Islam.
Yeah, and then went over, and was
right.
in Yemen and had a passport from Somalia and all this kind of stuff. And I will tell you that there's part of me that felt like hearing that story, like thinking about maybe there's just something embedded in that Islamic vibe that, disproportionately causes people to do stuff like this. And then I was reminded of the Christian fella shooting the abortion doctor. And like, well, no, that doesn't speak for Christianity any more than this guy's radicalism speaks for Islam, other than the fact that there are radical elements within Christianity that call for retribution from the vengeful God, and there's elements within Islam. But it's very confusing that, when you hear that kind of stuff, and I know someone who's not on this hand and that hand side of the story the way Obama is, because, the brilliance of his speech was, some people can say this and some people can say that, and they're both part of the conversation. was the genius.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on Islam by any means. I guess what a Christian apologist would say is that the Quran does give theological justification, or that the Prophet Muhammad does say there are these episodes or instances where jihad is justifiable in our religious perspective. And they would say that in Christianity, at least in the New Covenant from Jesus on, there is no similar. Paul never says, look, we're a peaceful religion, but if the Roman Empire gets to the point where it's oppressing us so much, we are going to have to take up arms. Or if you Corinthians are forced to have sex with temple prostitutes, then you can, start a religious war against the religion of the.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the tricky part is that Jesus himself says,
got a sword?
Yeah, got a sword. He says, and I there.
Yeah.
He's of course he says, of course Jesus fundamentally was peaceful. It seems.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say he's a bit ambivalent about what you do about the Old Testament.
Yeah, and a bit ambivalent about what you do about an oppressive system that kills the innocent.
Yeah.
The way the Romans didn't stand against that, right? In a spoken, formal way.
Yeah, and he doesn't explicitly preach nonviolence unambiguously in the way that Martin Luther King or Gandhi did.
Yeah.
He doesn't preach violence either, and I guess there are a couple passages in the Quran where Muhammad does open the door for that. I mean, jihad doesn't come from later Muslim scholars.
Could be struggle
Sure.
and not violence.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. It struck me how my impulse was to sort of critique all of Islam.
Yeah.
Because my experience with Muslims has been more media driven than personally driven.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
in its intensity.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Muslim people and whatever, but the intensity of import of that experience has been much more that way, and it caused me to wonder. But then it made me think. I believe that in Christianity there are certain streams of Christianity that are built around anger and violence and rage and appeasing an angry God and justifiable damnation and all this that people do.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that some people think that Obama is trying to catalyze a great reformation within Islam. As an outsider, I mean, it's different. But if you think Islam is about the same age as Christianity was when Luther came along and catalyzed that reformation. And maybe after 1,500 years of Islam, now it's time for reformation and for moderates to take over and kind of break through all the structures that have been built up in all the power players. This is another really interesting thing in the news around religion.
Okay, hang on. We're gonna after we pause this one, and then we do have a caller that I know wants to call in and talk about a follow up from last week's issue on abortion. So you can decide if that is the direction you want this to go or not. You can decide that. Tony Jones. This news update is brought to you by the Onion Radio Network.
Woman flirts